We're here in beautiful snowy Vermont at the Marlboro College Graduate School, and Terry Mollner, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
You're here to speak in a panel discussion for the Marlboro Sustainability MBA on Beyond SRI, the future of socially responsible investing. Mm-hmm. To understand the future, we have to understand the past and present. So what's your take on the past and present of socially responsible investing?
Well, I'm thinking back to the 1970s. And at that time, we were a bunch of hippies. And we were throwing pebbles at the big windows at the top of the buildings. And we were saying to the executives of companies, we want you to care more about the employees, more about the community, more about the environment. And they just kind of looked at us and kind of laughed and walked away from the windows. Then in 1982, we started the Calvert Social Investment Mutual Funds. Pox World Fund was before us as one fund, and we were the first fund that had the full panoply of social screens. We put those social screens together over 18 months at the Institute for Community Economics, where Bob Swan and I brought together about 20 people from around the country to do that. So we used those social screens, and Wayne Silby, who was one of those people, had created Calvert Group in Washington, D.C., which was doing money market funds. So he then called me up and said, hey, let's do it as a set of mutual funds using the screens that we had written. So in 1982, we launched the Calvert Social Investment Mutual Fund. At that time, most people thought it would go nowhere. As you know, today, $2.7 trillion is invested in socially responsible funds and investments of all kinds. That's just in the United States. It's much more around the world. And the Calvert Social Funds, which is the largest family of funds, which I sit on the board, we have over $5-6 billion under management in 17 different mutual funds. But the important thing, though, is that we set up screens that were we did invest in companies that had poor relationships with the environment, with the community, and with the employees as the main things. And what has happened is, as the consciousness of the society has matured, they've joined us. We were a little ahead of the time, but now, as you know, I was watching the president of Ford Motor Company last night on Mad Money on television, and he was saying we need to care about all the stakeholders. And I'm thinking, that's wonderful that the CEO of Ford Motor Company is speaking in that language.
So socially responsible investing has gotten to the point where it's come from the margins into what they're calling it in the mainstream now.
Right.
Now that SRI is relevant and companies are thinking in terms of their social responsibilities, what is the future for SRI?
Well, there's some interesting things happening that we're all kind of studying right now. But it's beginning to appear that companies like Ford Motor Company that begin to become conscious of what we usually call ESG, environment, social, and governance issues, that the companies that attend to those in a responsible and smart way, the employees are happier, the customers are happier, the vendors are happier, everybody's happier, and productivity is higher and profitability is higher. So we're beginning to see a pattern. There was a wonderful book written, Firms of Endearment, that evaluated 28 companies that they thought were the smartest managed companies in the country. All right? They didn't choose them because they were socially responsible. They chose them because they were just well-managed companies. What they discovered was that they were very socially conscious as well. And when they did an evaluation of the financial performance after they had chosen the companies because of their management abilities, they discovered that over the 10 previous years, this is from 2006, that those 28 companies had outperformed the S&P 500 by 800%. Not a small percentage. And so there's other statistics, and I could tell you more, but there's information emerging that is revealing that as the society matures, so does investment mature, so does management mature, and so does profitability mature.
And how is the socially responsible investment community itself maturing? In other words, what are the new practices that are coming into place? What are some new trends that we'll be discussing tonight at the Marlboro Sustainability MBA panel discussion on SRI?
Well, there's a few. One of the things that many people are very excited about is shareholder activism. It used to be that we would try to speak to people at the company and they wouldn't even talk to us. Now we sit in their board, we have a staff at Calvert in our social research department of 20-some people. they go sit in the boardrooms and talk to the CEOs and the managers, because they very much want to be sure, because in the multimedia world that we have today, they're aware the brand name is most important, and if something happens that damages their brand name, it's extremely detrimental to their product. And to the performance of their business. And so they want to be sure that they're becoming more socially, environmentally responsible in all of these ways. And so the shareholder activism movement is getting a lot of momentum because they're getting a response. Mm-hmm. And companies are responding and becoming much more conscious of these things. That's one good example.
And it's no longer, it's moving out of the adversarial mode where it's activist investors against companies and more into a cooperative
That's
mode.
right, definitely.
And that point of view will be represented tonight by Casey Burton with the Interfaith Center on Corporate Responsibility. If you could say a bit about ICCR and its relationship with Calvert.
Well, ICCR is an association of religious organizations mainly, as far as I understand it, that is very concerned about moving these social agendas forward. We at Calvert don't have any direct, business relationship with them, but we're all in cahoots around these issues. Tim Smith, who used to be head of it, used to be head of our social council at Calvert, and so we used to have a social council of people who would help us deal with these social issues. We now have special occasions when we bring people together to help us to do that. But so one of the wonderful things, Bill, about all this is, from the very beginning, all those of us involved with socially responsible investment have been aware that we're primarily working together to build an industry. We're only secondly competing. And this in itself is part of the new economics. The planet is a smaller place today than it was 30 years ago because of our ability to communicate so easily with each other. And so what's happening is that we're discovering that cooperation is fundamental in nature, and by honoring it, we all are more successful.
Well, Terry, thank you so much, and we look forward to speaking with you, hearing what you have to say, as well as Peter Kinder from KLD Research and Analytics, Cary Krosinsky from Trucost, Casey Burton from ICCR, as we mentioned, and Anders Ferguson will be moderating. He's from VERIS Wealth Partners. At the Marlboro Sustainability MBA panel discussion called Beyond SRI, the Future of Socially Responsible Investing. Thank you so much, Terry.
You're very welcome. Look forward to tonight.